What is going on, Detroit Sports Nation? AJ Reilly back with you again. Eric Vincent along with me, ready to talk some football, ready to be here, and just, God, Eric, maybe just lend a shoulder for people to cry on. I don't know at this point.
I'm
I
running
don't
out of.
want to be. I know
I'm,
I'm running out of ways to describe it too. This is bad. It was not good. We're gonna get into tonight's Lions only. We're just gonna whatever get anything off your chest that you need to get off your chest in this moment of just kumbaya. Maybe is what we could call it. I don't know what to
maybe
call
is a
it.
key word.
There
Yes.
just needs to be some kind of hopefully therapy and just getting it off the chest today. And Charles is already telling us, just keep it real. Oh, we
Oh
will keep it
yeah.
real.
Oh,
I
believe that,
guarantee you,
Charles.
Charles,
There's a lot to
we
speak on today.
will keep it real because there is a lot to talk about when it comes to the Detroit Tigers. Baseball season's over. Detroit Lions losing in New England to their former head coach, Matt Patricia, who has some kind of role on the offense, but I think that he's more just like a charity case standing on the sidelines. And their loss to the Patriots, 29-0. The best NFL offense got shut out by the New England Patriots on Sunday, and we are going to talk about all of that. Before we get to that, though, I do want to remind you guys that wherever you're at on social media right now, make sure that you have hit that subscribe button. Click that
You,
bell for notifications. Make sure you're following Detroit Sports Nation on all social media because we do cover everything. And when new content drops, you'll get those notifications. So make sure that you are following us there. Eric, 29-0, man. Talk to me. What in the world is going on with this team right now?
an absolute disaster, dog. This is just insane to watch. This was worse than basically every other game this season to me. And it's kind of like a lesser of two evils type deal. But you can look at it like this. At least in games like when they played the Eagles, you got to see a breakout performance by DeAndre Swift. You got to see TJ Hockenson have a career game last week, even though it was in a loss. Jeff Okudah having, shutdown performances and like really stand out things that you could be encouraged about. There is nothing to be encouraged about with this game that we saw. I forgot who wrote the write-up on our website, DetroitSportsNation.com, where someone had to give game balls away and, assign grades to people like, for positives. It was impossible for what we saw in this beatdown. They were just discombobulated again on all aspects. At least now for this time, no, the offense is included. Defense was bad again. Coaching was a blunder again, and now the offense, unfortunately, went for the ride. This was one of the rougher performances we saw from Jared Goff. He didn't get any protection the whole game. It was bad from start to finish, just all around, man.
But that may be the MO against Jared Goff because when he gets pressure, he's not as good of a quarterback as people are led to believe through the stats.
And
Like it,
he tried
well,
scrambling too. Like it was ugly, bro. He
yeah,
like
and there
spit
were
out and just
yeah, there were specific plays too where like even on the first drive, like he ducked under a tackle with like
Yep.
half a yard left. And look, Matthew Stafford is in Los Angeles. Okay, listen, I'm not here for Matthew Stafford to come back to the Lions,
No,
but Matthew Stafford's not coming up a yard short on that run.
no, he's
You know what
not.
I'm saying?
No.
Like, let's be a competitor. Let's get out of and get continue on the field. Like I did like what they did on the next play, even though they did get stopped, right? Where they lined Jamal Williams up as a fullback
I did see
and
that.
ran a
Yeah.
little fullback trap to him. Like that was creative. I liked it. It got
Mm-hmm.
stopped. It happens, right? It's fourth down. I don't mind that fourth down call.
I'm
The
with you.
entire game was lost, and the momentum and all of the building up and all of the puffing up and everything that has gone into the season, hard knocks and the, all the soundbite clips from Dan Campbell were lost when you were 4th and 9. You went for it. Your quarterback fumbled, and they returned it for a touchdown. That was the game. The game was over, and it kind of leads to a question of, and I want to hear the comments from everybody too. Is it kind of time to punt on the season? You're 1-4 heading into a bye week. There's no game coming up next week. You've got a bye to try to get right, but at 1-4 with already unmet expectations, there's not a person in this city And if you are one, you are lying to yourself. They believe they'd be 1-4 going into the bye.
Mm-mm.
So now that they are 1-4, is this a time for them to punt on the season? Before you answer that, I want to react to some of this stuff right here. Charles said this. Charles says the worst of it all was losing to Patricia. Yeah, that for sure needs to. It's like salt in an open wound, man.
Ricky had a good quotable. We were talking during the game, and at this point, they were just kicking. New England was just kicking field goals, and then they had the defensive scoop. They took it to the house for a touchdown. He said, "Well, at the very least, Patricia's offense hasn't scored a touchdown yet. That was the only saving grace that he didn't have anything to work with." But then out of nowhere, Zippity Doodah decided to become a star and just tear this offense or this defense apart, along with their running game. Stevenson had like 160 yards on the ground.
Yeah, he
To
did.
answer the question, I don't think it is yet.
Okay.
And again, it's a very slim bit of hope that you can hang on at this point. We haven't seen JMO yet. Amon-Ra St. Brown tried to suit up, but he really wasn't much of a
85% of the snaps he played on Sunday.
yeah, it was clear he wasn't the same, and
not.
they just weren't able to move the ball. Josh Reynolds deserves a lot of credit. He is making some tough catches. He's playing through injuries. He is playing some very good football right now with Jared Goff. But outside of that, I don't want to say it's time to punt on the season yet. I have very slim hope that we're going to see them, like you said, playing in meaningful games later in the year, things of that sort. I don't think that's going to happen, but at this point, I don't think it's safe to say they should be punting on the season because we haven't seen. I don't think JMO's going to turn that much of a difference, but I still think it's a little too soon to make that call.
So here's the thing, right? And I'm gonna actually bring in my screen for a second here as I do this real fast because I want to throw up this poll that we threw up on Detroit Sports Nation. Okay. And it is a poll. Let me fix this real quick. But it's a poll, and we just simply asked right here, what are your feelings about the rest of the season? Like, how are you feeling about the rest of the season? Do you have a moderate feeling where you think that they're going to only get to 5 or 6 wins on the season? Do you still have high expectations where they're going to get to 7 or 8 wins? One of them was they're not going to win a game the rest of the season, and that could be reactionary based on New England and things like that. But then another question was, I have low expectations. They're only going to get to a total of like 3 to 5 wins. 61% of our fans, of our DSN fans and people in this Facebook group here said that they will get between 3 and 6 wins total on the season at this point. And I think that is realistic. I think that the idea of punting on a season, I'm with it. Like anybody that thought they were going to contend this season wasn't looking close enough at this roster. This roster was left in turmoil when Quinn Trisha left and was fired because you had, number one, a bad culture that ran off Quandre Diggs, that ran off Glover Quinn, that ran off Darius Slay. Imagine those guys on your defense right now.
Darius Slay still a top 5 corner. You can legit have him and Jeff Okudah right now at this moment.
If it wasn't for Quinn Trisha.
Yep.
So you're talking about a GM, and I think that's why. I think that is why, this comment from Matt, the narrative that Dan and company need to be fired, needs to be put to bed, is somewhat realistic. Even though Andy does disagree and says, why does Campbell still have a job? The reason why Campbell still has a job is because we're 22 games into a rebuild. We're 22 games into a complete rebuild, which sucks for Detroit Lions fans. Listen to me. Let me be very clear. This sucks horribly for Detroit Lions fans. And you've been told since 1957, just wait a little bit longer. Just wait a little bit longer. Just wait a little bit longer. But the reality is this roster was so bad. So bad. You're talking about a regime that drafted Jelani Tavai, a projected 7th-round pick in the 2nd round. That drafted Tease Tabor, who didn't last more than 3 years in the league, in the 2nd round. That drafted Gerard Davis in the 2nd. Like, this was not a good roster when Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell got here. Now, is Dan Campbell a little too rah-rah and not enough X's and O's? 100%. We have said this from the beginning. He needs to get better at the X's and O's. And if
Mhm.
he does not get better at the X's and O's, he either needs to step away or he needs to hire somebody that is good at them. 4th and 9, down 6-0. You do not go for it there,
No.
especially with a new kicker that you've just signed and a 50-yard field goal. 50-yard field goals are the new 40-yard field goals. Everybody
Yeah.
makes a 50-yard field goal.
Yep.
Kick the ball.
Kick the ball. Take the
And at
points.
worst, punt the ball. Now, I
Yes.
understand, like, all the other 4th down decisions, I have absolutely zero problem with. When you're above, your own 40-yard line and it's
Yep.
4th and short, go for it. I don't,
Mhm.
statistically and analytically, it makes the most sense.
Mhm.
But the problem is we're having too many times where we come back and we go, well, that decision cost them.
Exactly.
Well, that decision cost them.
Yep. What could have been
This
if we
could
if they actually did this, right?
this very easily should be a 2-3 team at worst right now. It could very easily be a 3-2 team, but could have, would have, and should have don't get you Lombardi trophies.
Exactly.
Taking a look in the mirror and going, man, what do I need to do to get better is what gets you Lombardi trophies. And
Exactly.
also understanding from a fan base, this is 22 games of a rebuild.
Yep.
And 5 weeks ago, when we were in the preseason and Hard Knocks was still on HBO, everybody was willing to run through a wall for Dan Campbell.
And
You're
that's
ready
what
to give up 5 weeks into the season? I don't think so. Not yet. Not yet. Now, I will say, go ahead.
no, I was gonna
I've
say
been talking for a while. You
no,
go.
no, 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 you good. I was just gonna say I'm with Matthew in terms of the narrative or the questioning of firing at this point is absurd. That shouldn't be a discussion. It's not fair to put that as a discussion. But the narrative itself does need to change. You just said it. Running through a brick wall is over. You should be asking a lot of questions about Dan Campbell. You should be asking a lot of questions about Deuce Staley, Ben Johnson, everybody at this point in the coaching staff, like Aaron Glenn for sure. Like at this point, they went from the lovableness of Hard Knocks. All that allure is over. When you see them lose games because of coaching, it's not like all these games were not lost because of a lack of talent. While talent is an issue,
Yes.
at least 2 of these games have been blown because of coaching. And he's wearing that publicly. He's coming out and saying, I didn't have him prepared. You can't talk about biting kneecaps, wanting to drown your opponent and this, that, and the third. Then you say, oh, we weren't prepared. Like, that's not going to fly, yo. So, no, he's not to be fired, but a hot seat and extra attention, no question. No question.
So there's a lot of good chat going on right now. Okay. And we have a little bit of a disagreement going on between this whole rebuild. Somebody needs to answer for this. And I want to actually throw this up because Charles is responding in the comments. Somebody says, no, somebody on staff needs to answer for this game. Yeah, Charles, I think that there is an answer for that. And, I'm not going to continue to place blame on Quintricia, but I'm going to blame Quintricia for this one because this roster is terrible. I don't want to make excuses for Dan Campbell. I want to be very, very clear that Dan Campbell has to answer for things, like
Yes,
Eric just said. And
absolutely.
he does, right? Like he said, I made a mistake in the Minnesota game. Totally good. Great. He
Glad he
did
said
not
it.
say
Yeah.
that he made a mistake yesterday, which I think
Mhm.
is a problem. The issue for me is I just want to continue to see an evolution of the coaching staff and the development of the roster, which
Mhm.
we're not seeing, which is very difficult on the defensive side to see right now because literally everyone and their brother is hurt on the defense right now.
Facts.
We
Absolutely.
do want to make sure that we bring attention to Savion Smith, who Eric, did you see that play? Did you continue to watch that? I watched that play probably 8 times at this point, and I cannot tell what happened to him. By all
No
accounts,
idea.
he's doing okay and did
Yeah.
travel back with the team last night. Um, it's just, I mean, he goes down. I thought for sure, I thought Deshaun Elliott popped his Achilles the way that he pulled up in that game.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
looked a
that didn't
lot
look
worse
good.
than cramps. Thankfully, it wasn't. But every one of our secondary guys last night, I mean, Chase Lucas was playing safety yesterday,
Yeah.
which he's not a safety. So there's built in excuses, which I will not use. I will not say that injuries are a problem. There are people that need to answer for yesterday, and you have to point to the coaching staff. Does that mean that they need to be fired? I don't think so yet. I think
Not
that
fair to say.
conversation
It's
needs
not
to
fair to
end.
say.
But I will say, if they only get to 3 wins again this season and there's no improvement made over last season, then starting day 1, Dan Campbell's on the hot seat next year
No
and
question.
should be.
No question. I think when you have the injuries are definitely important, especially considering the timing. Even if you look back to last game, because while this game, it was the DBs that were getting hurt one by one by one on the same drive. It was nuts. They were literally falling like flies play after play. Last week, it was the receivers that were doing the exact same thing. Cephas goes down. What's his name? Raymond goes down. Reynolds limped off a couple times. Like, for whatever reason, they are really struggling with keeping guys on the field. And I mean, for a young team that's trying to get established, you can't really it's hard to build that kind of continuity if they can't stay on the field.
You got a question here.
You believe Aaron Glenn should not be held accountable? Listen,
Oh,
man,
sorry.
he absolutely should be held accountable. Aaron Glenn should be held accountable. He should be answering for this defense. He should be, talking about why these schemes are not working, why they're playing DBs like 7-8 yards off the line in a 2nd and 15. They absolutely should answer for that. But does that mean they should be fired right now? If that's what you're trying to say, I'm not with you on that, Charles. But I absolutely think they should be held accountable and address it.
But I do want to address, because Charles does bring up something, a very salient point here about, and something that we have even said on this. We don't need this to be the number 1 defense in the NFL.
No.
We're only asking that it becomes the 25th best defense.
Yes,
in the NFL.
you could have.
Right? Like, that's the thing. If this defense was even a fraction better than what it was, and there is some answering for that in the scheme, not last week's highs and lows, or no, it would. Yeah, I don't know. Charles, there's 2 articles that I've written recently, the highs and lows from the games, and one of them specifically called out Aaron Glenn's scheme. It was the one against the Seahawks, so highs and lows for week 4, because the scheme that he ran that week was pathetic. It was terrible. It was awful for the team and what they have available, because as I said in that article, on this show, when I guest host Griffin and Bass last week too, Aaron Glenn was continuously putting below average NFL players on islands to make above average plays, which he cannot do. And that is a scheme, and he does need to be held accountable for that. But the flip side of that coin, Charles, is the fact that the players that he has on defense just are not good. They're not very good, talented players, because the previous regime ran off your best players. When Alex Anzalone is the best linebacker, aside from Rodrigo, okay? But, like, when he is touted as, like, the starting linebacker that you have, now he played a lot better yesterday than he did the week before. But he's still not good. He's a below average NFL
still be
player.
replaced. Yes.
Very easily replaced. Derek Barnes continuously lost in coverage. As I rewatched that game, continuously sucked in to play action fakes and all of those things that left Okuda 5 yards behind a drag on, I don't even remember who the receiver was. It was Jacoby Myers.
Jacoby Meyer, I think. Yeah.
And it looks like Okuda blew that coverage when Barnes should have been the one sitting in the flats. It's below average players being asked to make above average plays on defense, and that is a problem. We got another question here. Hutch has a second highest double team rate behind Garrett. Why is no one else getting home? Well, I think that goes into, Eric, why don't you go ahead and say what you're thinking?
Well, because there's nobody else able to get home and make a play. There's a clear lack of talent. I think Lee McNeil he made a couple plays, but in run support, hasn't really got a lot of pressure on the quarterback. And we're kind of seeing, as we spoke to, a lack of talent on this defensive line. That is the absolute tone setter of a defense in this era. You need a not dominant, but you at least need adequate depth in the defensive line to get pressure on the quarterback. And the Lions aren't getting any of that. Aqib Talib said that the very least that Hutch could start off with in progression is finding a go-to move to get to the QB. So he believes he's just going in there and just rushing blind and not even trying to get a move off. But He's been a little disappointing. I'm not the number of him getting doubled is cool, but he still is kind of underwhelming at this point for me. I can say I'm underwhelmed by what he's doing at this point.
You can say that you're underwhelmed by what he's doing at this point. I like here's Johnny's comment about Holmes doesn't even know how to speak in public. Campbell, he's a clown. Like you can be underwhelmed at the fact that Hutchinson has 3 sacks through 5 games. Okay. You can be underwhelmed at that.
Mm-hmm.
But that double team statistic matters. And it matters big time. Because I was doing some statistical analysis before the Patriots game, so I'll have to do it again after the Patriots game.
Okay.
But if you take Trayvon Walker, you take George Karlaftis, and you take Kayvon Thibodeau, right?
Mm-hmm.
You add up their first 4 game numbers, they are equal to what Hutchinson's put out. All 3 of them combined.
Right.
As far as QB pressures, as far as tackles, as far as sacks, they're all. I mean, he's the best rookie edge rusher.
Are they a part of the? Are they a part of a historically worst NFL defense in the league? Though?
But why should we be holding that against Aiden Hutchinson?
We're not holding it against him, but he can eat some blame pie still.
How
I saw you didn't see Zippity Doodah lay him like to the side and just let him step over to a Jacoby Myers. He's done that a lot this season. Like
because
again,
sure. I'm not saying he's blameless.
But
we cannot. But when we start talking, and I've seen this tossed around from Lions fans quite often.
Okay.
When we start putting the 4-letter B word on him, 5 games into his career,
right? That's not.
I understand that, but I want to be very clear that is not what we are doing.
Listen, we do rational emotionality over here. You tell us how frustrated you are, but be rational with it. That's all we ask.
That's all we're asking for.
You can be mad at everybody on this team, but firing
here's Johnny
anybody,
saying, "Smash that like." We want you to smash that like button. Absolutely. Here's Johnny. Thank you for doing that. Make sure you guys are subscribing, hitting that notification button as well. Here's the other thing. Let's talk about the offense. Okay,
let's do it.
Let's talk about the offense. Who, if I again put up their statistics, not great. Mm-hmm. Not great at all. Not great. Your running game, which is one of the better running games in the NFL, barely there. Barely there. I mean, Jamal Williams, 15 carries for 56 yards. Like, that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Craig Reynolds, 6 carries for 24 yards. Did have 3 receptions out of the backfield. But then your boy, who you wrote about again this week, TJ Hawkinson, went to sleep. Has a breakout game against the Seahawks, and then comes napping to New England.
Vintage Hawk. That's him. That's him. Will dominate a week, and then you won't see him again in 3. It's a lot of Lions in the history like that. Him, Ziggy Ansah used to give you 3 sacks and then disappear for a whole month. I don't know why these guys do this, but he's of that group right now. I'm so tired of Hawkinson. I swear, bro. He's on that list for me, the 4-letter word list. I'm tired of what he does.
I am extremely disappointed in the offense this week.
Yeah,
because and here's the thing: they got outclassed by a world-class defensive mind coach in Bill Belichick, potentially the greatest head coach of all time.
Yep.
But Charles, when we talk about over 30 points a game, still trying to get off that high, I get it. But I think those numbers are very much inflated. If you take away the 4th quarter of the Seahawks game, they only scored 23 points. Because they scored 22 in the 4th quarter. And when you talk about this offense, yeah, there's a lot of flash. There's a lot of bang. But this offense is not a sustainable 4-quarter offense right now. At all. Why did they lose to the Philadelphia Eagles? Because they had numerous consecutive 3-and-outs. Why did they lose to the Minnesota Vikings? Because they had consecutive, numerous 3-and-outs.
Yep.
Why did they lose to the Seahawks? Because on their opening drive, they went 3-and-out. Because here's the problem. Whether it's scheme, and I don't think Ben Johnson's a problem at all. I think Ben Johnson is creative. I like the way that he designs routes, and I like the way that he gets guys into space.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to go back to the fact that you have a quarterback that's really not that good.
Mm-hmm.
And it showed on Sunday. When he has pressure in his face and he doesn't have all day to throw, he's really not that good. Yes, the receivers do not help at all because there are a lot of drop passes going on. But as a quarterback, there's no reason, unless specifically designed for it to happen, that the ball is short of the marker on third down. And it's consistently happening, and that's leading to 3 and outs. In the Washington Commanders game, you very easily could have lost the game against the Commanders and be 0-5 right now because your offense stalled out. So while they are putting up points at 35 points, and it's lower than that now, obviously, but while they were putting up points at 35 points a game, like, there's holes on the offense too that need to be very clearly addressed because they got exposed on Sunday. They got exposed on Sunday.
He does that. Goff does that at least 3 times a game. That's probably an undersell. It's 3rd and 5, but he throws it to 3rd and 3, and he gets stopped like yard or 2 behind. I definitely agree with you. I never thought that while it was fun to watch and see them be this explosive, I didn't think this was going to be sustainable. I did think the offensive line was going to be able to play better than they did yesterday. Matthew Judon had an absolute field day on them. It was disgusting. Outside of that, they've been pretty good this season, even with dealing with the injuries. And unfortunately, again, another reason it's not sustainable because of the injuries that they're dealing with right now. If Amon-Ra can't play, DJ Shark is out, and again, considering how young they still are, I didn't think that was going to be sustainable to be the best in scoring, offense in the NFL. That wasn't.
Here's your question, Eric. So Goff's gone, even with us being positive on the season. 5 games into the season, right? We're not making off-season calls now.
Yes,
but
what I just
but
said.
Charles, if I was the GM of the Lions, this would be Jared Goff's last season in Honolulu Blue. He's owed $30 million next year. He's only a $10 million dead cap hit. So you save $20 million there. You're very easily looking at a top 10 pick again, maybe even top 5 again. Do I like the quarterback class? Not necessarily, but does that give you draft capital to make a move? Maybe. And let's not forget the fact that he's playing very highly. If your season's lost by the trade deadline, why not make a deal to move Jared Goff to get even more draft capital, because you know what people are paying for quarterbacks. So look, if he's here one more season, if he's here in 2023, I'm okay with it because he's under contract. If he is extended beyond the current contract, Brad Holmes should be shown the door that day.
Mm-hmm.
We'd be stuck with it, but he should be shown the door that day. Because as Maximilian knows on this show, we have one guy in mind that we would love to see. But Max, we addressed it last week, like with how bad this defense is.
I can't.
We really just cannot see there being enough capital to go get a Lamar Jackson because you have so many holes on this roster. It's just the roster's not good, which is why, I mean, look, I'm in that group that has them at 6 wins this season. I still think they can win 6 games. No, I had them at 6 wins at the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
I'm coming down off of that number. I'm coming down off of that number because they got Carolina. They've got Chicago twice. They've got the New York Jets. And I'm forgetting who the other kind of cupcake team is.
They got the Dolphins, I think, coming up soon.
Yeah, but they're not going to beat the Dolphins. They're not going to beat the Cowboys coming out of the bye. They might as well forfeit the Thanksgiving game and just host a potluck because they got the Bills coming up. Like, this is, I don't know why they got that. I potentially see them winning 3 more games. They probably could potentially beat the Jets. They'll probably win 1 of 2 against Chicago. And they could beat Carolina.
But another part of SOL is this setup right here. And this is very likely to happen. They're slow right now. They're beating themselves right now. The other part of SOL is when the season doesn't matter and then you're in your last 5 weeks, Hutch gets 2 sacks in the game. And all of a sudden they go on this streak and start playing harder and more disciplined than they ever have. The 4th down conversions start working and looking a lot smarter now. The defense is recharged. That is very possible. And I know that's going to drive me insane if we see that. We've talked about this more than enough times before the season started. And it's shaping up to do exactly that right now. This sucks, man. This really sucks being this time. Again, I know it's early in the season. There's enough time to
we're a third of the way. We're a quarter of the way through.
Yeah, we're a quarter of the way. Thank God for this bye week. Hopefully they can come back healthy. Again, a lot of these pieces are needed. The receivers, I can't stand to see them play like this anymore, where they can't get open the entire game. But we'll see. They need this bye week more than any of this anybody else.
Charles, yes, losing to the Pats. That was that was that it was. And here's where we'll tie a bow on it, and we'll make like a small transition to the next question that we have. But that was the most lifeless game I've seen in 2 years under Dan Campbell.
Easily.
Easily. The
Easily.
moment they got stopped on that first 4th down, the defense played well, held them to a field goal.
Yep.
Then you got nothing else going. Oh, no, that's not true. You throw the interception.
You threw that pig in double coverage to Hawk. Yes.
Oh, I watched that play so many times. There's so many things I can say about that, but I'm not going to because I've already,
The film
melted the
speaks
face
for
of
itself.
it does. I mean,
Exactly.
it speaks for itself. That was a lifeless game. So here is the question that I want you to answer moving into this next kind of few minutes of a segment.
Okay.
Up until this bye week, who's the most disappointing Lion to you?
Whew. Okay. The most disappointing Lion. I might have a few names. I'll rattle off the first one so far.
All right.
I gotta say DJ Shark.
That's a good answer. That is not an answer that came across my mind.
The summer is filled with like all the hype videos. The Lions social media team did a great job of getting some content. And DJ Shark was ahead of all of it, making tough catches on the ground, being a deep threat. And now it's just looking like he was taking advantage of a bad defense. He has been very disappointing. I mean, even with the injuries on top now, because I don't even remember when he got hurt. I hope he gets better, but I'm very disappointed with what I've seen from him so far. He just comes and goes, big drop after big drop in drives, especially in 3rd down. He has been so underwhelming. Like, again, you were supposed to be able to live with him until J-Mo got hurt. Now, he looks easily replaceable at this point. You could put Josh Reynolds in his role and he'd be cooked. Like,
Lions
I'm so
Mania
disappointed with him.
is giving you props like crazy. I totally forgot we signed that guy, honestly.
He's on a 1-year tryout contract for a reason, and we're learning why. We're learning why the Jags didn't use him that much.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And listen, I like the signing, right? 1 year, 10 mil.
Me
You got
too.
a little space. Like, let the guy prove it. He's not proving it. Okay, you cut that weight. This is no skin off the back, and it shouldn't even be a black mark on Brad Holmes because this is the type of thing that you needed to do in the offseason was bring in a guy on a prove it contract.
Yep.
Right? But I think for me, the biggest disappointment is Dan Campbell so far.
That's a good answer.
It's an obvious answer. Like, there were some really good answers here, like Amani Owarie, right? Charles Harris. I think that was Matt for both. Oops. Aiden Hutchinson, right? Those guys have been disappointing, but you've got a coach that has potentially cost you 2 wins so far.
Yep.
And as a coach, you want to put your players in the best position to win. And going forward on 4th down, fourth and 9, with a kicker in your pocket that was good in Chicago when they had him.
Yep.
I mean, that a 6-3 game looks a lot different than a 13-0 game.
It does. You
can
live with that.
16-0 game, right? I think it was actually 9-0 when I kept saying 6-0, but I think it was 9-0 at that point in the game.
Yeah.
And they go for it on 4th and 9, and then it's 16 to, yeah. So I think that I don't know. I think that the most disappointing line to me so far has been Dan Campbell. And here's the thing, I love grit.
Yeah.
I'm sick of hearing about grit.
Yes.
I'm done. Like, I even got the hat when I went to the game because I like the hat. Because I like grit. Like, I want to be a gritty individual in my life. I love the message. But I will go back to what I said the very first week when they lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. Grit does not win you football games.
No.
And there will be no participation trophies handed out.
No.
So preach grit, cheerlead, rah all you want. Talk about biting kneecaps and we'll tread water until we bury you kind of thing. Like I get it. Like that's motivating. That's awesome, right? Kabinda's got his eyes going like this because he's all ready to go, right? In the meeting.
Yep.
But I'm a very firm believer that talk is just talk until you put some walk to it.
Absolutely.
And there ain't no walk going on right now.
No. And
No walk at all.
he's the face of the team too. Like if you think about what everybody has talked about in terms of what they were so excited for, it wasn't Jared Goff, even though he's playing good now, but Dan Campbell's the face of the team. So he's the one, again, you can have all the grit in the world. You can have all the grit in the world on the sideline, but when you go in the game and you trip on the field because you didn't tie your shoes and you blow yourself in the foot from not being prepared, all that grit does not matter. And that's what they're doing. You're beating yourself and you're sacrificing all that grit. And it's coming at the expense of a young team. You're losing the locker room like this. And that's not, I don't think that's a stretch to say. Like, I've never been in an NFL locker room, I never played, but the voice of your coach that is
There's
crushing
reality
you
to it,
game
though.
with bad decisions absolutely has to be reality to it. No
100%.
question.
Well, and so that goes into then with him being, my disappointment. And there was a comment here, right here from Charles. I want to make sure that we get this up there because we've talked about injuries a little bit, but let's address it a little bit more because there's a lot of fans that are concerned about injuries. On the injuries page, is it strength and conditioning? Who's responsible for looking into that? Or is it the grasping for straws? Players are consistently getting injured like the Tigers at the end of the season. What is your take on the injuries? I have my own opinion, but I want to hear yours first.
I can't speak to if it's strength and conditioning because it feels like a lot of them are like kind of freak accident type things. So
Yeah,
to say if it's strength and
Savion Smith
conditioning,
being the biggest, freak.
yeah,
That
like
was the it's the scariest thing to me
yes,
because it was the weirdest thing to me.
yes,
All he did was literally engage with Hunter Henry
and
and then fall over.
then just fall
No
over.
lowering the head, nothing like it was. But continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Yeah, you were making a good point. Like it's just a lot of things that we're seeing, like they're kind of like things you can't necessarily prepare for sometimes. Like the NFL is a very violent game. Guys are trying to adjust to how to tackle. Like guys are bigger, stronger, faster at this point in terms of evolution of NFL players. I don't know if I can necessarily pin this to like the strength and conditioning coach. It is a worry. Like I don't know how players can just watch that and then get right back on the field and play. But I mean, it's a violent sport, and it's kind of hard to pin necessarily, to me at least, what it's really coming down to. What would you say?
We had that twice this weekend. Mike Hart
True.
collapsed on the sideline of Michigan.
Yes. That was scary.
According to all accounts, he's doing well too. So, like, we send our, thoughts and prayers and best wishes to both of them, Savion Smith and Mike Hart. But for me, one of the big emphasis during Hard Knocks was how hard they were going. Full padded practices, full contact.
Yeah.
But
which is rare in the NFL now.
But then, how many of your offensive starters started in the preseason and played and got acclimated to game speed? Not many.
Not many, yeah.
And Jared Goff maybe had like 3 drives the entire preseason.
True.
And I can't really say, as far as the defense goes, like snap counts on the defense during preseason. But it's very hard to replicate game speed in practice.
Exactly.
And regardless of how hard you went during preseason, if you're not getting these guys prepared for the NFL speed, you're putting them in compromising positions. Not to mention the fact that you also went hard and risked injury the entire preseason.
True.
In practice. And there's wear and tear that happens on the body. So I don't know if it's a strength and I doubt it's a strength and conditioning thing because all these teams have, top level strength and conditioning programs.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say another at least for 2 names I'm thinking of off top, I can't necessarily pin it to them or at least to the strength and conditioning because at least 2 of these names are super injury prone players off rip anyway. DeAndre Swift and Jeff Okudah. They're always in a bubble wrap bag. Like they always are getting hurt. So I can't necessarily the other guys, they're kind of just like rare. We're still getting to know the guys that are getting hurt
Yeah.
now. But those two names is like kind of why I can't necessarily pin it to, what
Yeah,
their
so
preparation
Gary
is.
makes a good point about Savion Smith here. Like Hunter's helmet might have tapped his chin. It did not look like Gary. I'm telling you,
I
I
couldn't tell,
paused that
man.
play at like every interval that I could just to kind of grasp something. And I didn't see anything. And again, I think it was just one of those freak, kind of things, and just unfortunate for Savion, who was making his first start in a while. But it is what it is, and we want the players to be healthy. We want them. This bye week could not have come at a better time
Facts.
because when you come off of this bye week against Dallas, you're most likely looking at least a 95% healthy, excuse me, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Hmm.
Hopefully, Shark can do his reverse magic act and reappear, and then DeAndre Swift should also be back, and then hopefully some of the guys on the defense will also be able to heal up as well. Eric, before we get to our week 6 picks, let's talk about Gear Up Detroit, please.
Yes, sir. Let's do it. So holiday season right around the corner. Again, if you want to still support the Lions and make sure you're staying fresh, but maybe might want to put no money in the Forge pocket right now, we understand. So help us help you. Hit us up right now at gearupdetroit.shop and get 25% off your first purchase by using the coupon code you see on the screen, BTB 25 off. Very, very clean apparel right here. I actually got to shout out my man Mike from work over downtown. He actually picked up one of the Lion shirts that he really liked online.
Nice.
So the word is getting out. A lot of good support with the merch. You guys check it out. Make sure you get fresh and clean with us.
Absolutely. So let's get to our week 6 picks. Now, Eric, 2 weeks ago I wasn't here. Ryan Griffin covered for me.
Yeah,
And for some reason, you picked 6 games that week, which is going to throw our total off because we've been going 5 games every week.
I did
And
do
y'all
that.
picked 6. So our records are going to look like we've only picked 5 games every week. But we
Right.
also have the Monday night game this week that we don't know the result of yet. So
Right.
we're
We still
actually
got to
going to be
wait.
a game off. So
Okay.
currently, right now, you are 13-12 on the season. I am 15-10. Who do you have? And here's our first matchup. Thursday night, another barn burner. Washington at Chicago.
Washington at Chicago. I'm sick of the Bears winning, and I don't think they're going to do it. I still like some of the pieces on Washington. I think they'll be able to tough it out on the road against the Bears. I'll take Washington. Carson
Yeah, I
Wentz.
I I just think, when Justin Fields is in week 5 completing his first touchdown pass, that offense is just bad against a pretty good defense. It's going to keep them in and probably dominate that game. So I'm definitely
Oh,
going Washington as well.
but don't worry. Justin Fields will have his coming out party when he plays the Lions.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
certain of
100%.
that
Yep,
happening. No question.
guaranteed. Next game, Minnesota at Miami.
Uh, I'm gonna go with Minnesota. I don't know what's going on with Tua. He could be still on the shelf for a little while. Minnesota, they win a lot of close games. I like that they're getting Dalvin Cook involved more. And Justin Jefferson looks like the best receiver in football. So I'm gonna go ahead and rock with Minnesota.
Yeah, it's hard for me to disagree with you there. I'm gonna go with Minnesota as well. Baltimore Ravens, our guy Lamar, at the surprise 4-1 New York Giants.
4-1.
I know,
4-1 Giants. That's
I
crazy. The
know,
NFC East is
is
ugh,
on fire. Yeah,
cannot believe it. Um I'm gonna go with my man Lamar. I'm not picking against him
yeah.
this season. I don't I
I
don't
knew you
believe in
would.
having second teams, but something about me in Baltimore right now. I'm gonna go with the Ravens.
Hey, our fans in
I'm
Baltimore would love to hear that because we actually
yeah,
get some
I'm
people from Baltimore that do watch the show. Here's the
perfect.
one
Okay.
that I really want to pick: Buffalo at
Well, who are you
Kansas
picking?
City. Oh, I'm
Who'd you
picking
pick?
Baltimore. I
Okay,
pick
okay,
Baltimore.
cool.
I
Gotcha.
mean, look, the Giants are good, but they're not Lamar Jackson good.
Facts.
Buffalo at Kansas City. Yeah,
Man. Uh
that
I'm gonna go with
KC train's been good to you this year.
yeah, and I'm gonna stick with it too. I like Pat Mahomes a lot. I still like them at home. Buffalo's hot. I can't go against the Chiefs. I still like
No
what they
way.
have. I'm gonna go with the
Absolutely no
Chiefs.
way.
No.
Buffalo is the best team in. the NFL right now, hands down.
Ugh.
And I listen, speculation or not, there's rumors out there that they have inquired to Carolina about a certain running back that
I
they have.
did see that.
I can't tell you that there's any legs to
Man,
that at all, but I'm just telling you that that
that would be
would be
filthy.
something
Filthy.
crazy. Okay, I'm taking
Oh,
Buffalo in that game. And
okay.
NFC East matchup, and I believe I can't remember. I think it's the Monday night game or it's a Sunday night game. Dallas at Philadelphia.
I think it's a Sunday night game.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with your team, your second team. I'm gonna go with the Eagles. Jalen Hurts has played MVP football. I like what they're doing on defense too. I'm not Cooper Rush got to come down at some point. Nah, that has to stop. It won't be against the Lions, but it'll come down at some point. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the
Listen,
Eagles.
I told you, I'm picking Philadelphia until they give me a reason not to pick Philadelphia, and I think they should probably be the favorites in the NFC right now.
They look for
I'm
real.
going with Philadelphia. I'm
I'm
going to
with you.
continue to ride that train as far as it will take me. Those are our week 6 picks. I have a 2-game lead on Eric on the season series, 15 games to 13 games. We'll see how it shakes out this week. And we're going to head to our final segment, a segment that we did last week, Eric.
Yes, yes,
And
yes,
it
yes,
is
yes,
called the Career Path Trivia.
yes,
Now,
sir.
what we do is each of us have made a graphic that we are going to throw up on the screen. Okay, we're going to let the people kind of look at that graphic as well. They can throw their best guesses into the chat as well. I think mine is going to be a little too obvious. I'm just going to throw it out there. Okay.
So
So
it's
if you don't
clearly a
get this one,
curveball. It's clearly a curveball
if you
to
don't
it.
get this one, there's going to be problems. I'm going
Yeah,
to go
but
first. I'm going to throw my career trivia. What?
you know what that feels like? Remember when Ruxin lost by letting Kev set his lineup? That's what I feel like you're doing to me right now with
Reverse
this reverse
psychology. I got it.
psychology.
Here.
That's
Yes.
all you're
Yes.
doing. Come
All right.
on,
You ready?
let's do it.
This gentleman went to college at Marshall and then was drafted by the Vikings, went to Oakland, then New England, then back to Minnesota, then to New England again, then to Tennessee. Then he retired and then finished his career with San Francisco. Give the people a second to digest.
Okay.
Let them see if they can guess. I know that you probably already know this because it's a little bit obvious, but go ahead and throw your best guesses in the chat for us, and we will see if you are correct. Eric, you got an idea?
I have a lot of feelings on this player. Uh,
Okay.
there's a couple giveaways.
I know.
Yeah, I have a lot of historical hot takes on this player, but we can save that for another show sometime. Can I go? Or we
Yeah.
still waiting for the build up? All right,
We got some guesses already in here.
it's Chef Boyar Moss. Definitely Randy Moss. Marshall's a giveaway. You know,
I know.
revolutionized himself with the Vikings. He's had a weird career though. Like
Look at this, man. So here's the thing. I knew this was gonna be obvious because, like, okay, he went to Marshall, was drafted by the Vikings.
right.
That's the dead giveaway. But then, like, I didn't know he played for Tennessee until like
Yep.
about a month ago.
Yep.
Forgot that he came back on so it was too obvious. I have not challenged you enough. I have not.
I
And
know
I got to
ball,
be
man.
better. And I've got one in mind for the next time that we do this that I think will be difficult. The key is getting enough teams. And I figured this would be enough teams to throw you off the stench. Matt says he should have shown all of his college teams too. Maybe.
Could have had that. Yep,
Ooh,
that would have been
yeah,
good. That would
maybe.
have been a nice
All right.
twist to it.
So Eric, go ahead and
My
explain
turn.
this one.
Okay, here we go. So this player, I'm gonna leave living details. It came out of what was this? Is this Yale or BYU? That
You
logo.
did it.
I know. I'm trying to remember though. I'm trying to remember that. I think it was BYU. He was drafted to the Lions. Did not have a successful run. Went on to become a Patriot. Found a big contract with the Miami Dolphins. Ran back to Daddy Belichick in New England, and now is spending time as a Los Angeles Charger.
I
AJ,
know. I
guess
know
that
it.
career path.
I know it. I'm just letting the comments fill
Let
up a
them
little
let it
bit.
build up.
I know it. I know
This
it
is easier
because
than last week.
it's easier than last week. But
Okay.
then as I had the first question you did when I saw the why, I was like, Yale. Who we drafted out of Yale? But then I was like, no,
See?
that ain't Yale. No,
Yeah,
that's
no.
BYU, and it's Kyle
Yes.
Van Noy is
Ding, ding, ding,
exactly
ding,
who it
ding, ding,
is.
ding, ding, ding.
It's
There you
Kyle
go.
Van Noy. We made this way too easy this week, Eric. We made it way too easy for the crowd and for each other.
we just have a smart fan base, man. I mean, I
We do
can't.
have a very smart
You know what
fan
we should
base.
do?
What?
We'll go by categories next time. We'll say like current players or past Lions, just to like spruce it up, and then we can dig a little bit deeper that way. How about
All right,
that?
so we'll do 2 each the next time. We'll do, like, a
Okay,
current
bet.
player, and then we'll
Cool.
do a player of the past from
Yeah,
maybe Detroit or whatever, but that was man, that was too easy.
it's
I
okay.
thought that was gonna take a lot longer than it did.
Listen. We've been through enough emotional trauma this weekend. We don't
Yeah,
need
we
to be
need a
thinking too
we need
hard.
a
So
win
we
after
made
the
it easy for
29-0
everybody's sake.
blowout on Sunday.
Yes,
Yeah, you're right.
yes.
That's what we
Layups today.
provide. We
Yes,
provide layups and feel good moments for
yes.
the people here that have stuck around, and yeah, Matt, thanks. You should have been here last week when they were actually a little bit more difficult. He said, "Give us a challenge." Goodness. Yeah, but
We'll dig
no,
deep. Don't worry.
for everybody that was here for the last hour, Eric and I just want to tell you thank you so much for being here. I do want to remind you one more time that wherever you're at on social media, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, specifically YouTube as well, make sure that you are hitting those buttons, those follow buttons, those subscribe buttons. Pound those notification bells so that you can get the latest Detroit Sports Nation content. And then don't forget that Beyond the Box is also on Twitter at Beyond the Box DSN,
Yep.
where we will love to talk football with you. It has been a great therapy session once again, because that's what it. I mean, we might as well change the name of this to Therapy Hour with Eric and AJ, because
Honestly.
I mean that's what this is turning into this season. It's not time to necessarily punt on the season yet. You got a bye week that the Lions are coming out of, and it hopefully, look, they get to 6 wins. That's 5-7 over the last 12. That's almost 500 football. That's
Look at
not
you.
bad.
Look at
I
you.
think that's a little bit of high hoping, but
Yeah. You doing a lot of well wishing right
I'm
now.
just trying, go into the bye week feeling you don't have to watch the Lions this Sunday, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Hopefully they get right. Hopefully they get healthy, and then they come back against Dallas. I mean, listen, I would love nothing more for them to beat the Cowboys. Nothing more. I don't know why
We
we're still
can.
talking over this,
Yeah.
but I would love nothing more for them to beat the Cowboys.
We never lose to Dallas again.
I
That's Detroit sports law 101. We can never lose to Dallas Cowboys ever again.
yeah, I can't stand the Cowboys. I hate when they have success. The world is a miserable place.
And Cooper
So
Rush? Not
yeah,
Cooper
well,
Rush, bro. No. No.
they could have had David Blau. Just to speak to the depth of the Lions roster once again, here we are. But here's the deal. All right, we will be back next Monday night at 7 p.m. live across all social media platforms. We look forward to talking to all of you there. For all of you that were here, Austin's got one question real quick. Which professional team will make the playoffs first? I think he's talking specifically. Yeah, he clears it up in the next one. Which Detroit team will make the playoffs first? Now, this is not necessarily football specific. So, Eric, who's your...
Hey, listen. I'm a therapist. I got my coat on. I got 10 more minutes. I can answer that question. Let's go.
Let's go.
The Pistons. The Detroit
Ooh.
Pistons will be the first of the first. I think
This
the
season?
Lions, not this season, maybe next season. Next season, they'll be able to do it. I think they have the best shot. They got the most talent. They got a superstar in the making. The Pistons are on the rise. That's who you need to keep your eyes on for a postseason run.
I do want to also, while we're doing this, I do want to let everybody know as well that we have now created groups on Detroit Sports Nation. The corner for the Tigers, LG, let's go Red Wings, LGRW for the Red Wings. There's a Pistons group, and there's obviously biting kneecaps for the Lions too. So make sure that you are in and liking those groups as well, because all of our stuff will be posted there too. So you say that there was a question posted in that Pistons group that asked, would you rather see Ivy win Rookie of the Year with a chance of a play-in, or Cade get an All-Star but miss the playoffs this season?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I would say definitely option one. Definitely option one. Somebody has to have some postseason success. All these individual accolades, that's starting to be tainted at this point. We need some real things to celebrate. Can we hang some banners? Can we get some division titles? Something.
I
Let's
know.
start there. I'm gonna go with Jay Ivey rookie of the year to play in Berth.
Yeah, that we need some excitement. And look, we were supposed to have some excitement with baseball this season. That fell on its face. We had
Facts.
a lot of, misled expectations because of Hard Knocks and media with the Lions, and that seems to be falling on its face. I just don't want to see the same thing happen with the Wings and the Pistons because
Yeah.
there's no city that deserves winning sports more than Detroit.
Facts.
No sports team or
No,
no
no
sports
other
city
city.
that
Yep.
deserves more from their teams than what these guys have given us. Um, here's the deal. Eric Charles makes a good point. We have a Detroit team in the playoffs. Detroit City, football club, the soccer team is in the playoffs. It is soccer, which we don't really cover much of because there's not necessarily a high demand. It is a growing sport, so we want to give props where it is needed.
Coach me, Charles. Tell me what I need to know about him, man.
Oh, yeah,
Let's learn. Tell me what I need to
Charles
know.
and I have had conversations offline about
Okay.
about Detroit FC, and hey, it's a Detroit team in playoffs. Who do I think will make the playoffs first? Wings,
Yes. Who's your pick?
Pistons, Tigers, or Lions? Man, that's tough.
They're all kind of on a similar
They're
incline
all
right
kind
now.
of like we thought we honestly I thought if you would have asked me this time last year, I would have told you it was the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah.
Because I would have
Sadly.
thought that
Yeah.
this year they would have had a chance for maybe a wild card berth, especially with expanded playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Tigers and the Lions are somewhat close to the same timeline of like 2 years away from
Yeah.
competing. So like not next season, but the following season.
Yep.
Um, I'm gonna just differ a little bit and say the Red Wings. Nice
I'm with
young
that.
core. Steve Yzerman knowing what he's doing, working the Yzer plan and everything that's associated with the Yzer plan.
I like
So
that.
LGRW, baby. Let's go Red Wings and let's get them in the playoffs.
Yep.
It
They
would
got
be fantastic to get some playoff. I mean, I've been watching the baseball playoffs, and there's no city like Detroit when it comes to when it comes to playoffs.
Comerica's amazing. Comerica's an awesome playoff
Could you
spot.
imagine Ford Field hosting a playoff game?
Oh
We've
my
talked about what a
gosh.
great venue that is to watch a game. Like, just give it to us one time, man. Like, just one. That's all we're asking for. Just
That would just
one time.
it would
Just
feel
somebody
like
do
a Super
something.
Bowl. It would feel like
Yes.
a Super Bowl atmosphere
Yes.
just for the weekend. Oh my
And I
God,
would,
that would be so
yeah.
great.
So that's our answer to that question. Great question. I think that
Crossing
was
our fingers for
Austin that
everybody.
asked that question. Yeah, Austin, great question. He
Well
asked
done,
again, which
Austin.
Detroit team will make the playoffs first? Great question. But we are out of time on Beyond the Box, and it is time for us to head out. We will see you next Monday at 7 o'clock. He is Eric Vincent. I am AJ Reilly. We have no Lions game this weekend, but we do have Michigan Penn State. And Michigan State also plays somebody, but they don't have a Power 5 win this year, so I guess they don't matter. But it is what it is. Sorry, Eric. We will see you next Monday night, and we'll see you then.